Hello, St. Joan of Arc families. Today is the Feast of the Epiphany, a day of mystery and starlight, when we celebrate the Magi, or Wise Ones, following a marvelous star to find the light of the world. An epiphany means something suddenly revealed or understood, like a light flashing on in your mind. This idea of epiphany invites our question. Let's read it together.
Why has God come to live among us?
Our gospel is the story of the Magi, wise ones who study the stars. Their epiphany comes when they realize a marvelous new star lights the path to a newborn king, and they decide to follow the star so they can find the baby and worship him. Herod is the villain of the tale. Since he is afraid of the baby's power, he tries to trick the Magi into revealing where the baby is so he can destroy Jesus. Herod is the king of false power, a king of violence and injustice, the exact opposite of Jesus, who came as a cure for violence and injustice. Jesus was truly a threat to Herod, since Jesus came to turn the very meaning of power upside down. And so the epiphany of today's gospel is not just for the Magi, but for everyone. When the Magi journey to worship this king, a poor child of a different faith from theirs, born among the animals, they are showing us that Christ came for all of us, for all of creation, to teach us how to live together in peace. Today we have someone come to bring the gospel adventure alive for you. Nathan, who tends the camels for the Wise Man Balthazar, will tell us his story of the amazing journey beneath the miraculous star to the child who has come to unite all people in love. Our actor is Greg King.
I thought it was crazy when I heard, follow a star into the wild lands and with all that gold? Insane. So of course I begged to go. I'm Nathan, shepherd of the camels. Since no one could handle the cranky beasts like me, my master took me along. Let me back up and start the story where it begins. My mother had been a slave when my master found her, saved her life, she claimed, and gave me a fit home. Still, we were always the foreigners, always the ones who got slapped when the stew burnt or a fever spiked. Always the first ones to blame. Not an easy life, let me tell you. Once I was grown, things cooled off a bit. Or maybe I got better at dodging trouble. These days, my master was wasting his eyesight looking at the night sky with these two other dreamers, always talking about the star. I don't know from stars, but this one dazzled these stargazers, and they just had to follow it, wherever it might lead. Now these were old men, I mean old. My master Balthazar was the youngest of the party, and he'd been white-headed since I was a boy. But you'd have thought they'd not seen their first beards the way they talked about this trip. Seems they were following ancient stories, chasing the star to a great king. I didn't know about that. I just wanted the adventure. So we set out, and we got adventure all right. Sandstorms, bandits, jackals, and King Herod. King Herod was the trap I thought we wouldn't outwit. When he heard we were searching out the great king of legend, King Herod set his men on us. They took us in chains to his palace. King Herod tried to trick the three old ones into telling their way to the baby king. But the most amazing thing happened. The star put out its light. It left a dark spot in the sky to remember it by. And that's when I started to wonder. The old ones didn't waste any time, especially my master. He's a sly one. He started acting like a doting old man, jabbering about the invisible star. The others followed suit, and soon enough King Herod let us go. Sure, he'd been holding fools. We took to the road, and the light of the star made the night seem like day. We found the child of the legend in a cave on a hillside. It looked like a shepherd's hut, not the worst of its kind I've seen, but nothing plush, animals everywhere. Hardly what you'd call up to scratch for a prince. I peeked into the cave over the silk-covered backs of the old ones, who were kneeling in the dirt around an old feeding trough. I saw the baby's mother first, a young girl who looked right at us, bold as brass. I swear you'd have thought she was expecting a caravan of rich men to show up at the door. She smiled as though she'd made the star that lit our way to the place. Balthazar called me and put the golden gifts into my hands, so I was to present the gifts to the babe. I mustered up a smile as I handed over the golden bundle to the girl. She looked at me, right into my eyes. She seemed to know me, to know my whole life. And then she said, "Thank you," in my mother's tongue. These people were Jews, just like me. And suddenly, I understood. This baby king had brought us all together, Jew and Gentile, rich and poor. We unwrapped the packets of food we'd brought and began to eat, the old ones sitting right on the floor in their silks around the sleeping child. Outside the cave, the stars seemed to burst, painting the walls of the cave in light. I looked again at the child. This was no king like Herod trying to grab onto a power he didn't have. This was God, come to us as a child, like any of us. Like any of us. And yet our God come to make us one people. A happy Epiphany to you all.
The star led the Magi to Emmanuel, our God who came down to teach us how to live in love and peace and joy. Now it's up to us. Epiphany invites us to be seekers of the light, to collect the starlight, let it burn inside us, and shine it out for each other. Happy Epiphany to all.
Happy New Year!